Chapter 2 Problem. You can make a well-considered, well-thought-out decision. But if you have started from the wrong place with the wrong decision problem, you won't have made the smart choice. The way you state your problem frames your decision. It determines the alternatives you consider and the way you evaluate them. Posing the right problem drives everything else. You're planning to move to a new city, and you need to find an unfurnished apartment to rent. So your decision problem seems straightforward. Which apartment should I choose? But is it really so simple? Maybe it would actually be in your best interest to rent a house, not an apartment. Or maybe you should put your belongings into short-term storage and rent a furnished apartment for a few months to learn more about the city before committing to a lease. Or maybe you should try to find someone who is looking for a roommate. Or maybe you should just go ahead and buy a condo. In fact, maybe you shouldn't move to that city at all. How you pose a problem profoundly influences the course you choose. The decision you reach from what city will be entirely different from the decision you reach from which apartment. The way you state the problem, therefore, represents a crucial choice in its own right. Get it wrong and you will match up in the wrong direction. Get it right and you will be well on your way to where you really want to go. A good solution to a well-posed decision problem is almost always a smarter choice than an excellent solution to a poorly posed one. Be creative about your problem definition. The greatest danger in formulating a decision problem is laziness. It's easy to state the problem in the most obvious way, or in a way that first pops into your mind, or in a way it's always been stated in the past. But the easy way isn't necessarily the best way. To make sure you get the problem right, you need to get out of the box and think creatively. Many years ago, a struggling West Coast port was reinvigorated because someone posed a decision problem creatively. Every 3 years, the powerful dock workers' union negotiated a new contract with management. To avoid layoffs, the union had over the years demanded and been granted a slew of restrictive work rules. The rules had come to tie management's hands, preventing the adoption of more efficient new technologies for loading and unloading ships. As a result, the port was losing business. The Management Bargaining Committee, entering a new round of contract negotiations, saw its problem as getting the union to relax some of the more obstructive rules in exchange for increased wages and benefits. But then a committee member, a consultant from outside the industry, asked a bold question. What could management afford to pay the union in a one-time settlement to have all the work rules dropped? The negotiators had never thought of this possibility before, because the existing work rules had constrained their thinking. The answer to what could management afford depended, of course, on how the port would operate if freed from the work rules. A study commissioned by the bargaining committee concluded that the change would be revolutionary and the savings enormous. The upshot: the committee negotiated a generous buyout with the dock workers, eliminating the work rules for a price that, through this, though considerable, represented only a fraction of the projected savings. During the years that followed, the port completely changed its mode of operation, adding Among other things, the ability to handle containerized cargo. The results were spectacular. Ship owners benefited, with ship turnaround times cut from days to hours. Their ships became far more productive, and their costs plummeted. Consumers benefited as perishable fruit from Hawaii became cheaper and more plentiful. And as traffic at the port grew, the workers themselves benefited. More and better jobs became available on the docks. It was a real breakthrough, all because someone had taken a fresh look at the apparently routine problem and posed it in a creative new way. Turn problems into opportunities. Decision problems are called problems for a reason. Rarely, after all, do we make a decision for the fun of it. We make decisions because we have to deal with difficult or complicated circumstances. We are in a quandary. We are at a crossroads. We are in trouble, and we need to find a way out. But the problems aren't always bad. In fact, by stating your problem creatively, you can often transform it into an opportunity, opening up attractive and useful new alternatives. As Albert Einstein said, in the middle of a difficulty lies opportunity. No matter how bad a situation seems, ask yourself, what can I gain from this situation? What are the opportunities here? U.S. manufacturing companies discovered the bright side of decision problems when they were forced by law to eliminate environmentally harmful materials from their operating processes. At first, the companies saw only the negatives: disruptions, higher costs, more paperwork. But then some of them began to see opportunities. Instead of viewing the problems in its narrow and obvious form, how can we get rid of harmful materials? They redefined it more broadly. How can we produce our product in the best and the most efficient way? As a result, they made breakthroughs in their operations that have actually enabled them to have lower production costs without toxic materials than with them. By changing a problem into an opportunity, they gained an important advantage over their less savvy competitors. In this case, the law acted as a trigger. Every decision problem has a trigger, the initiating force behind it. Triggers take many forms. Your boss asks you to choose a new mailing list software package. A chat with your spouse about ways to use your backyard gives you an idea about a new lawn furniture. A friend's heart attack makes you realize that it is finally time to get in shape. Most triggers come from others, your boss, for example, or from circumstances beyond your control, for example, new regulations affecting your business. Because they are imposed on you from the outside, you may not like the resulting decision problems. But there is no law that says you have to wait for a decision to be forced on you. You can take the initiative. In fact, creating decision situations for yourself is a great way to create new opportunities before a problem even arises. You can, for example, review your career path on a regular basis, seeing if you want to move in a new direction. You don't have to wait until you get a lousy raise or your employer runs into trouble or you get a new boss whom you don't get along with. Be proactive. Seek decision opportunities everywhere. Define the decision problem. So, what's the best method for defining or redefining your decision problems? Start by writing down your initial assessment of the basic problem. Then question it, test it, hone it. Ask what triggered this decision. Why am I even considering it? The trigger is a good place to start because it is your link to the essential problem. State the trigger as clearly as you can. Include, number one, your assumptions of what the decision problem is. Second, the triggering occasion. 3, the connection between the trigger and the problem. For example, you need new lawn furniture, and the trigger occasion is that you chat with a spouse. And the connection between the trigger and the problem is how to use your yard. As you explore the trigger, beware. Triggers can bias your thinking. They can trap you into viewing the problem only in the way it first occurred to you. When your boss asks you to choose a new mailing list software package, for instance, the problem might not actually be what's the best package to buy. The real problem may be what's the best way to manage our company's direct mail program. You may find that you don't need new software at all. You need to contact with an outside company to take over the mailing effort. Question the constraints in your problem statement. Problem definitions usually include constraints that narrow the range of alternatives you consider. For example, the problem definition, when should we conduct the 3-month market test of our new credit card offering in the Midwest, assumes, number one, that there will be a market test. Second, that it will last 3 months. And third, that it will be in the Midwest. Often, such constraints are useful. They focus your choice and prevent you from wasting time wrestling with irrelevant options. Sometimes, though, they put blinders on you, preventing you from seeing the best options. As the following example demonstrates, identifying and challenging the constraints can lead you to better problem definitions and better solutions. Next, identify the essential elements of the problem. If you are an actor and you need to choose your next role, the elements of your decision problem might include any or all of the following. What role will gain me the most exposure? How much money do I need to earn? What's the best way to develop my skills? What are the limits on my time and travel? Should I wait for more options to open up? Or should I concentrate on what's available now? By first breaking the problem down into its component pieces, you can be sure that your problem statement is focused on the right goal. Understand what other decisions impinge on or hinge on this decision. What other decisions will affect this one? What other decisions will this one influence? Whether your company will allocate funds for training may influence how far afield you look for a new word processing package. How much you spend on it may influence what a new computer and telecommunications hardware your organization will be able to buy. Rarely does a decision exist in isolation. Thinking through the context of a decision problem will help keep you on the right track. Establish a sufficient but workable scope for your problem definition. Should related decisions be made part of this decision? Should a part of this decision be peeled off and dealt with separately? You need to weigh a comprehensive, broad definition against a more easily tackled, narrower one. An ideal solution for a problem that is too narrow could be a poor solution for a more broadly and accurately defined problem. If you are looking to minimize gasoline costs, you might overinflate your tires to reduce road friction. But if your real problem is cutting your overall automobile operating expenses, this might be a very poor decision. The money you save on gas may be more than offset by the cost of having to replace your tires sooner. Gain fresh insights by asking others how they see the situation. After you have asked, answered, and reviewed all of the above questions to your satisfaction, get some other perspectives. Depending on the nature of the problem, you might seek advice from a family member, a knowledgeable friend, an acquaintance who has faced a similar problem, or a professional in a relevant field. Their ideas will help you see your problem in a new light, perhaps revealing new opportunities or exposing unnecessary, self-imposed constraints. If you can't actually talk to anyone, it can even be worthwhile to imagine how others might think. Ask, for example, how would my accountant see this problem? How would my boss look at it? Don't be afraid to be creative. If you are a politician, you might want to imagine how Harry Truman or Winston Churchill would have thought about the problem you are facing. Re-examine your problem definition as you go. Obviously, you will want to create the best possible problem definition at the outset. But even after putting considerable effort into defining the problem and then digging into its solution, your perceptions may change. You might start off thinking that your problem is planning your summer vacation, only to realize that what really appeals to you is a winter trip to South America. You don't have the time or the money to take 2 vacations, so you need to change your original problem definition. Remember that defining your decision problem is itself a decision problem, the resolution of which will profoundly influence your ultimate choice. That's why it is important not only to consider several possible problem definitions in the beginning, but also to pause along the way and re-examine the definition you have chosen. Faced with a competitor that has just made a 20% improvement in the clarity of its video conferencing picture, a telecommunications company might at first formulate its decision problem as how do we watch their level of clarity as quickly as possible? How do we match their level of clarity as quickly as possible? But on further consideration, it might realize that it could actually gain an advantage if it recast the problem as what technological innovation would allow us to leapfrog the competition by achieving a 100% improvement in clarity. Chances to redefine your problem are opportunities that often lead to better decisions. So from time to time, as you work your way through the decision-making process, ask yourself, am I working on the right problem? Questioning the problem is particularly important when circumstances are changing rapidly or when a new information becomes available. A poorly formulated decision problem is a trap. Don't fall into it. Maintain your perspective. If it seems like we are making a big deal after the problem definition, you are right. Crafting a good definition takes time. Don't expect to get it right in one sitting. True, The effort involved in creating a good, comprehensive definition must be balanced against such considerations as time, importance, saliency, and emotional energy. But in 99 after 100 cases, spending extra time defining the problem pays off handsomely in the end, if it increases the odds that you will make the smart choice. Okay, that's the end of chapter 2 on problem.